Right, hello everyone, welcome back. Sorry, it's been a couple of days since I posted anything. But here we are with some more tactics for beginners, courtesy of Dr. Dave Regis, letting us do his ebook. And we're going to look at three positions today, or three games today about undermining and three games about overloading. So undermining in chess is when you basically capture a piece that is defending another one, and then the other piece can be taken safely. And so straight into our first game. We've got no names for the players with this one. Let's turn the analysis off. And we've got e4, e5. Actually, no, I'm going to leave it on for this one. It'll be quite useful. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop to b5. And in the normal Roy Lopez after a6, which is typical line, if you play bishop takes, which is fine, and pawn takes, which is fine, you can't really just go grabbing the pawn. Because queen here is quite nice. You've got an attack here, you've got an attack here. If you don't want to play queen there, you've probably got queen to d4 as an alternative, which again attacks here and attacks here. And actually black's very happy with that. So although this looks like you're capturing the piece that's defending this pawn, actually in this line, it's a bit of a pain and doesn't really work. But in this situation that I'm about to show you, it can work. And if knight f6 is played and then d3 and now a6, well, bishop takes, pawn takes, and now you could take the knight. And that's because this pawn here is defended. Black can't go to g5 because basically there's something in the way. And queen to d4 is now not particularly scary because although the knight's attacked, you can just move it back again if all else fails. And this pawn is defended. So that's a very basic example of undermining or removing the guard, as it's sometimes called. So just go back a few moves. And here's the situation. So the only piece defending this pawn is the knight. And therefore, if you take the knight, pawn takes, you can now take this one relatively freely. So let's look at a couple more examples then of this. And our next game is Levy against Varka from the Skopje Olympiad. So that's a big old just chess, pure chess tournament between teams from different countries in 1982. All right, here we go. So e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, d4, e-pawn takes d4, and c3. So we've got the Scotch scoring gambit. Okay, d5, e takes d5, queen takes d5, c takes d4, bishop to b4 check, knight to, oops, that's the bishop, knight to c3 to block the check, bishop to g4 the other side, pinning the knight. The knight can't move now, of course, because of the queen. Bishop to e2 to block this. Bishop takes, attacking the queen. Oops, nope, not like that. Or that. Attacking the queen. There we go. That's what I meant to do. And queen takes d4. Now, bear in mind, the analysis bar, the eval bar, has just shot up to +12. So clearly white is about to win the game. But can you see why? What's the undermining that can happen here? What's the removing of the guard move that can win white the game? So if you want to try and find it, please press pause now. Otherwise, I will put the move on the board in 3, 2, and 1. And the point is here that white's queen is attacking the black queen, but currently the knight defends. So if white plays bishop takes knight, that's check. So of course, black has to deal with it. Pawn takes bishop, and now this queen is undefended. Queen takes queen, and white is just a whole queen up. So that's a typical example of removing the guard, undermining. Let's just have a look. The queen attacks the queen, but there's a knight defending. So what we can do is remove the knight. Bishop takes knight check, pawn takes queen. Ouch. Okay, let's get another board. And our next game is Colias versus Ronco, Illinois in the USA, 1987. Let's see how this one goes. So e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, knight to c3, knight to f6. So 4 knights opening. d4 from white, pawn takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop to c5, bishop to e3. Lots of trades are going to happen on d4 now, I expect. Knight takes, bishop takes, queen to e7. Black prefers to just defend the bishop instead of swap again. Fair enough, okay. Bishop to e2, white's in no rush to capture. Castles from black. e5 from white, attacking the knight, so the knight must retreat. It retreats to e8. Now, I think the eval bar might be about to disappear a little bit. Yeah, only to +4 this time, but nonetheless, this last move gives white a really nice way to undermine the defense of one of the black pieces, to win a piece. Now, this isn't quite so obvious as in the previous puzzle. It's not so obvious as a check. But how can white proceed here? By undermining, removing the defense of one of the black pieces. So if you want to try to work out the best move, press pause. Otherwise, I'm going to carry on in 3, 2, and 1. And the bishop here is seen by the white bishop, but is defended by the queen. So if we can get this black queen away, then we can win the bishop. And the correct move, therefore, is knight to d5, which attacks the queen. Now, obviously, the queen can't go here to stay in touch with the bishop. And if she moves anywhere else, let's just say queen to, I don't know, h4, we'll pick a square. Well, now white has the very simple bishop takes bishop, and you'll count the pieces. White has an entire extra piece. And that's very nice too, especially at a good level of chess. That's pretty much going to be the end of the game. So that was undermining, removing the guard. The next 3 that we're going to look at are overloading. And now overloading is a situation in chess where one piece just has too many jobs and it can't do everything at once. So let's have a look at the first example of this. And we've got Sebis against Nemec from Prague in the Czech Republic, 2004. So it's only a 10-move game. Let's see. e4, e5. d4, center game. Pawn takes d4, c3. So we're going straight into the uber aggressive Danish gambit. Cool. Knight takes c3, knight to c6, knight to f3, and d6. Bishop to b5, bishop to d7, castles, a6 from black, bishop to c4, b5 from black, bishop to b3, and now with the position relatively level according to the computer at the moment, bishop to e7. Now, why is this a problem? Well, let's see if you can work this one out. So what we're looking for here is a black piece that is going to have to do potentially too many things. This is a really, really tricky move to find, even though it's like a one-move puzzle. If you can spot this one, you're doing a really, really good job. So press pause if you want to have a go at spotting the winning move that takes it to +3 for white. White can basically guarantee winning a full piece here. Otherwise, I'll carry on in 3, 2, and 1. Okay, and the correct move is queen to d5. Why? What's that doing? Well, the bishop and the queen, first of all, are now pointing at f7. If you've followed lots of our videos, you'll know that f7 and f2 for white are real weaknesses because they're only defended by the king. So white is now threatening to play queen here, which is actually checkmate because the bishop is backing up the queen, and there's therefore no escape for the king. Now, the only things that black can do to prevent this would be knight to h6, which defends that way, but gets you nowhere because after bishop takes knight, you're not defending it again. So you still can't save the game. Or you could try knight here. Sorry, I need to put that one back. Or you could try knight to e5. But that's not going to do it either because knight takes knight, and now black hasn't got time to recapture because if they do, they get mated. So none of that's going to work. And the only other thing you can do is put something in the way and play bishop to e6. But this is the overloaded piece because the bishop was previously protecting this knight. Now we've overloaded it. It's got a different job to do. Queen takes knight check, and there's no way to recapture. So white just wins a piece. So that's really quite cool. So this is the main overloaded piece. It can't defend the knight and go here to block the check at the same time. So it's an overloaded piece. Okay, let's have a look at another one. And this game has been entitled by Dr. Dave, An Overworked Pawn. So I think we've probably got a clue as to what piece is going to be struggling in this game. And our game is Converset against Jobaica from Buenos Aires in 1994. So we're in Argentina for this one. So e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5, and now f5. Wow, Schliemann-Janisch Gambit, I think this is called. Let's have a look. Yeah, there it is. This one's a bit wild, so this should be good fun. d4, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, pawn takes d4, queen takes d4, c6, bishop back to e2, pawn takes e4, and bishop h5 check. Now, pawn takes e4 was a huge mistake. What's going on here? Why was it such a huge mistake? So here's why. Basically, you've got a pawn that's doing too many things, and it's this pawn here. At the moment, it's got one job, which is to block the white queen from taking the rook. Of course, if the pawn goes forward to block the check, well, then you can just play queen takes rook, or if you really want to, you can play bishop takes pawn, pawn takes, and then play queen takes rook. Actually, the computer doesn't like that. Perhaps you're better off just taking the rook straight away, are you? Does it just take it straight away? Yeah, computer says actually just take it straight away. That actually makes more sense, doesn't it? Because now if pawn takes bishop, queen takes knight. So actually, yes, silly me. It's even better to take the rook straight away, isn't it? But if you don't push the pawn forward, and the only other way to get out of this check is king forward, well, now we've got this bishop move coming up here, and this is just horrible. So the king can't go to any of these squares, would have to go forward to here, and then I would imagine that there's going to be a checkmate very, very quickly to follow. Probably queen here would do it pretty quickly, I should think. There's a check, the king's going to move. There's bound to be a checkmate, but even if there isn't, you've just got bishop takes queen. So can't be bad, and computer says it's mate in 7. So ouch. Yeah, okay. So in this instance, if I just go back, the pawn was the piece that was overloaded. Go back a few moves. In this position, however, of course, black shouldn't be playing pawn takes pawn. We'll have a quick look and see what the computer says. I'm guessing it's going to say maybe queen f6, maybe knight f6. Knight f6 is what it's recommending as the best move. Yeah, so bring the knight out here and go from that position, which is, you know, a little bit better for white anyway, but not by a whole queen. Okay. So we had an overworked pawn there, an overworked bishop in the previous one. This one, Dr. Dave has just entitled Overload, and it's our last game to look at today. And it's an 8-move game, 9 moves, 10 moves. Okay, so let's do this. So e4 and e5. Oh, turn the lines off unless we need them. Knight to f3, and oh my goodness, black plays f6. The Damiano defense. Now, this is not good. Plus 1.5 for white, give or take, almost within 3 moves. This is a mistake. And white goes straight in for the knight takes e5 line. Pawn takes knight, queen to h5 check. Now, just note in this position, you can't really play g6 because queen here check, king moves, or something happens to get out of check, let's say there, and you've dropped a rook. So that's no good. So in this position, your only real move is king to e7. Queen takes pawn check, king to f7 is forced, bishop to c4, and the king is getting hunted down. d5 played by black, bishop takes check again, king to g6, h4, and now this is definitely very, very good for white. It's already +4, and black in the game plays h6. So, Dr. Dave's comment now. White has sacrificed a piece to get an attack, but is it good enough? Well, queen to f5. Queen to f5 would be checkmate if it wasn't for the bishop on c8. So, in fact, bishop takes b7 wins. It wins lots and lots of pieces. Why? Well, black can't take this because that walks straight into checkmate. So that's no good. And if black... What happened there? Oh, it just made a noise for h6 again. I was going to say the computer just made a funny noise. Yeah, so bishop takes b7. And if black tries another move, for example, bishop to here, to attack the white queen, well, then white has this really rather nice move, queen here, which just keeps all the threats. And you've got the same problem. You still can't play bishop takes because queen here. And it's still mate. So there's absolutely nothing you can do. And of course, if you just move the bishop out the way, well, then bishop takes rook and white's just winning anyway by being lots of pieces up. So on this occasion, if we just go back a few moves, after h6, this bishop is trying to do too much. It's got to defend this square because of the checkmate. It's got to defend this square because otherwise bishop takes and bishop takes. And that is a classic overloaded piece. Okay, that is very much a whistle-stop tour of what is quite a complicated idea. Hopefully it's helpful and interesting, and hopefully you'll get a chance to overload and undermine some enemy pieces in your games pretty soon. So thanks for watching and enjoy your chess. See you next time.